Hi everybody, this is Lindsay, another one of my little grammar videos, but this time I'm talking us through the language analysis for lesson planning pro forma. Now this is a new thing that Trinity has introduced, that they want candidates to submit one of these for every observed lesson that they do. This is a focus on the language that you would be teaching in your lesson. So I just want to quickly walk through different elements of this. First of all, you need to put what the language point is. Now, this could be a grammar point, this could be a vocabulary area, or it could be an area of functional language. For example, asking for permission or giving directions. Those would be functional language points. You may have a lesson which has more than one of these things, in which case you choose which is the most prominent or important one. So many lessons might have grammar and vocabulary, but perhaps the grammar will be more important in the lesson. Or you could have a lesson which has a bit of grammar review and the vocabulary is more important, in which case this sheet would be done for vocabulary. So you put the language point here and the context, if applicable, where an example sentence, if applicable, where needed. So present simple might be your language point, the context for describing routines. Okay, past simple might be the language point, the context for talking about a holiday or a special event. Okay, if your language point is house vocabulary, the context should be clear, so you don't need to really add a context there. Example sentences are more for grammar points or functional language. So your functional language, as an example, could be describing ability. Example sentence, I can speak Spanish, or I can swim. Yes? So those would be what you would put there. Sample language point and sample sentences. The next box here is the meaning and use. So what does it mean and how do we use it? Okay, we put both of those together because sometimes it's easier to describe the use because the meaning is obvious, or it's easier to describe the meaning. So for example, for past continuous, we use that to describe an action in progress in the past. That's where you get the meaning, yeah, or use for it. Okay. If you have a series of words and a vocabulary set, you don't have to write the meaning for each of them. Unless you were teaching, for example, prefixes, and then you'd talk about the meaning, like negative prefixes or these suffixes, for example, make adjectives into nouns. Okay. Once you have the meaning or use, there may be questions that you could ask to check the meaning. These are the famous concept questions, and lots of people have trouble with these, so that's why they're asking you to focus on this a little bit. We'll be looking at examples which give you things of concept questions. Concept questions cannot be questions about the form. So for example, is there an S at the end of the verb is not a concept question. Okay, so he plays tennis. The concept question is this a regular activity? Does he still do this? Those are concept questions, not is it third person singular. Lots of people confuse the concept question with a question about form or a question about the meta language, about grammar itself. So they make a concept question, is this past simple or is this past continuous? That is not a concept question. Include a timeline, if appropriate, for certain tenses, and include contexts that you would be presenting vocabulary or functional language. You may have included the context briefly up here. You could expand upon it a little bit. So if it was describing ability is your functional language, you might expand on this, describing ability in terms of a job interview, or describing ability in terms of a guidance counselor speaking to a student. Yes? So this would be a context. The context in which you're presenting the house vocabulary. Is it somebody looking at buying a house? Is it describing their own houses? Is it talking about a dream house? Those are all different contexts to which that house vocabulary could be presented. Then here is a box where if there are any anticipated problems with the meaning or use and possible solutions. Okay, so anything that you think might come up problematic with the meaning. Again, many people might get this mixed up with anticipated problems with form. So if you say students might make a mistake by leaving off the third person S, that is not an anticipated problem with meaning. That's a problem with form below. An anticipated problem with meaning would be not understanding that present perfect is something that happened in the past with relevance to now. Okay? Or not understanding that a second conditional is something that is not necessarily real but hypothetical. The next boxes are easier. Form, so how do we construct it? Very easy for the tenses, also for the functional language. This is where you would put, where applicable, like the little equation. So if plus present plus will plus verb. Or he, she, I, you, he, she, it, etc. So you might put your table there, okay? If it's a vocabulary set, maybe you would just put the words from the set there. Anticipated problems with form and solutions, again, would be the things that I were mentioning before, and also solutions on how you would deal with them. Very brief solutions, for example, allowing for restricted practice or drilling, allowing time for use and correcting mistakes as they come up, refreshing students' memories about this rule, writing the rule in the corner on the board and indicating it throughout the class. Finally, pronunciation. Here, they're asking you to transcribe key sections or whole phrases in phonemic script. So here, for the grammar, you would transcribe perhaps your example sentence, one or two of those. For the functional language, again, the example sentences. If it were vocabulary that had certain features, you may transcribe some of those, the more difficult words. If it was verb phrases or collocations in vocabulary, you might transcribe a few of those, showing how the words connect, if there's a linkage or things like that, or which word is more stressed. So expect to have 2 or 3 lines here, maybe 2 or 3 words, 2 or 3 phrases, or 2 or 3 sentences. Here, you'd put the anticipated problems. What sounds might they have? Is there problems with word stress, linking, weak contraction forms, intonation? Okay, you'd mention 1 or 2 of these here. And also, I didn't put it here, but it would be what you would do to resolve this problem. So it could be giving them models, drilling, asking them to write it in phonemic script, or any number of those things. So there we have it. This is the language analysis for lesson planning. You'll be doing these to go with your lesson plans, 1 for each lesson plan that you do. And we have some exercises to help you get to grips with this and see examples already done. Good luck.